Hello. We're still at the CZI annual conference, and we're meeting lots and lots of very interesting people who've got very interesting things to say. And of course, the tipple's never very far away. And it looks like we might have gained a convert to Mosi, which is a wine made by one of our own in South Africa. I think you guys spoke about it.
Yep, Joseph Tafana, yeah, it's fantastic.
So you know these two idiots, but we've got among us
a serious person.
Yes, who actually knows what they're talking about. An expert on industrialization and industrial production in developing countries, Mr. Chowdhury from India. Do we call you Mr.?
You can call me Zakat. I'm from Singapore.
Oh, Singapore.
Ah, okay, fantastic.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to our show. How did you end up here?
I was in touch with Zida, so got an invitation from CZI, whom we were discussing for some time for what kind of work that we do and whether we have a role to play in Zimbabwe for the domestic industrial development, what kind of work that we can share with. So we started on a discussion maybe 6 months ago and ended up with this invitation here. Happy to be here.
Great to have you. First time in Zimbabwe?
No. Been here before, many years ago, maybe 10 years ago on a business trip, but on a more recent, about 4 years ago, I came on a safari with my family. So I've been to a few places. So, like your country.
And what made you come 10 years ago? What was the trigger?
I was in a trading company before. We were selling a lot of finished products into developing countries.
All right.
So we were in steel, we were in food. So we had a lot of experience of selling finished goods from Asia to Africa. So then I started this company about 5 years ago, and now we focus on how do we empower local people to develop the manufacturing capabilities, to set up factories in a very simple, cost-effective way, so that it doesn't cost arm and a leg to manufacture something. And we do focus quite a lot onto small, medium-scale industries, people trying to make items of daily needs in a cost-effective way. That's the work we primarily do.
And you do this in developing countries across the world, or you focus on Africa?
So we work across the world. We work on Asia, quite a bit into Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar. We work across Latin America, places like Bolivia, Paraguay, Peru, Chile, the entire Central American belt, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Panama, everywhere. So Africa is one of our major places where we work. We work across Africa, almost.
Is it particular products, or it's just across?
Yeah, do you sell products or do you sell expertise?
We work on the expertise side. We don't sell the product at all. Okay, so what we really do is we help local entrepreneurs to set up factories. So if they're trying to manufacture something that I don't want to import, I want to make it here, how do I go about it? So we can start from scratch. We can take them through the whole process. We can give them a budget that, okay, this is the kind of things that you can cost us. And if they say, yes, okay, this is okay for me, we can take it as a contract. We can start from the discussion level to the final implementation level, hand over a running equipment, machinery to them. That's where we end. So we do end to end.
So, and there must be things that you find very common in all the markets you work in. What are the biggest hindrances to local manufacturing in all these poor countries?
Actually, I don't find much of a hindrance, because you see, the information is probably the biggest gap which is not available to somebody. Like, people want to do something, but they don't know how to go about it. So even if I want to set up a basic biscuit manufacturing, I don't know how to go about it. First is how much money do I need? What kind of equipment do I need? And from where do I get the equipment? What are my raw materials? How many people I need? What power, land? These information is not available on a structured format anywhere. It's just not there. It's not there anywhere in the world. So, and of course, if you don't have a manufacturing ecosystem, I mean, there is not a consultant available, or if there is another guy who's manufacturing the same product. If it is not there, you don't get to know how to do it. So nobody can, let's say, give you a half an hour
masterclass on
that. Okay, this is how we go about it.
So that's interesting, right? So if you, I think if you asked most of the people at this conference what the hindrances, they would say power, they would say capital, and all these other things. But in your experience, you say it's actually knowledge.
Absolutely. It's knowledge, because you see, in any country, the manufacturing is almost monopolized, or let's say a small group of enterprises or large manufacturers, sometimes multinational, they rule their country. So because of their system, the whole process becomes quite expensive. When you walk into a factory of, let's say, Lever Brothers manufacturing soaps, you think, no, that's not my cup of tea. So you can actually visualize most of these basic manufacturing in a very, very cost-effective way. It is possible to manufacture at a fraction of a cost what, let's say, Kellogg's would make cornflakes for. If you were to make let's say, cornflakes, it would cost you probably 1/20th of what Kellogg would spend for the same product of the same quality. So,
how does that make sense?
Okay, it makes sense because, you see, multinationals have their own way of working. So they would have their own, let's say, selected equipment suppliers. They will have their own EPCs. That I will go to a consultant or a contractor. I tell him, okay, make a plant for me. So they are working under, let's say, a manufacturing or multinationals direction, who have no limit on the funds. So they will recommend the best and say, oh, this is what you do. And they probably do it that way. But if you are a small investor on your own and you are trying to do the same thing, you will say, what can I do so that I can compete that product and not spend so much money? It's possible. It's starting from the selection of equipment to the setup of the manufacturing.
I also think that it sounds better in news press to say that we've built a 50 million factory than we've built a 50,000
absolutely
factory.
So
and it creates a barrier to entry.
Yes,
right.
And no. In economy, there is scope for everybody. You have multinationals, you have large players, and you will have small, medium sector players who will service maybe the same segment, same product segment, but not the same customer segment.
True.
So there are customer segments who would be happy to buy a cheaper biscuit and get the same taste. Probably it would not, I would not say quality is inferior product. You can actually produce product using a low cost equipment also of the same quality, because it's what you put inside. What the skill.
It just means instead of having an electronic switch that switches off when the temperature reaches a certain level, maybe you need to have your sister sitting and watching the oven.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. We keep discussing this in many products where you see. Is condensed milk popular here? Do you see condensed milk or
we have
milk or canned milk?
It's not very popular, but we have it.
We have long life milk. I think that sells much more.
Any time that you look at a product, the equipment packaging systems sometimes cost maybe much more than the equipment itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a headache for a lot of people. How do I develop my packaging, my equipment, my automation of packaging equipment? Now you are in Africa, where manpower is not that expensive, and you are trying to generate employment. Why am I looking for an automation of my packaging if it is not affecting my quality of the goods? Like if I'm manufacturing soaps, I would probably make the soap packaging automatic, but rest of it manual.
Okay.
Right? I can wrap the soap automatically, not touching the hand, so my quality up to that level is done. But after that, if I'm putting 72 in a box or a 6 in a string pack, and then sealing of the box, I would definitely put people there. But a multinational would put a robo arm to seal the carton and then.
Yeah, and I think also with a lot of multinational products, they have huge marketing spend, and they have a captive market at a premium price. So that's how they can afford to make such huge outlays for their factories. Whereas local smaller brands, where you rightly pointed out that people care about getting the same taste at a fraction of the price. It's a completely different kettle of fish.
Absolutely. See, the people who are looking for this category of products probably are not the buyer of that product. In many cases, they are not. So the industrialization or small scale industrial development, whenever we discuss about industrialization, we always talk big. We want to set up a car factory, we want to set up a petrochemicals factory, we want to set up these. But nobody talks about how do I make 20 factories making biscuits and noodles and what you need daily, soaps. You don't need to buy soaps. I mean, you don't need a multinational high
It's
tech.
actually very, very interesting because what's happening if you go into where a lot of our people live, they're actually breaking bulk. So stuff is made in a factory, but it's just not small enough for their particular needs. And someone is buying the bulky stuff and then they're breaking it down into smaller units and selling. And what you're saying is actually there is, of course, a business case for somebody actually just setting up a factory that produces the right sachets,
Absolutely.
the smaller sachet or whatever it is for the
market.
For the market. Okay.
But okay, I hear you. So, but all the examples you're talking about are business to consumer, and it's a very tail end of manufacturing, which we know doesn't add that much value. Then, does your model apply equally when you come to the more early stage manufacturing, the B2B manufacturing, manufacturing intermediate raw materials, manufacturing machines?
Okay.
Then isn't that what we really need if we're going to push the economy forward?
There is a way to go up. Like you need the staircase to go up. Okay, so your bottom of the pyramid has to be the basic goods that you need on daily requirement. Okay, so that's where you start. Now, what I'm suggesting is in that platform is never should be made out of only large multinational or large marquee big name manufacturers. There is scope to do 80% small scale manufacturers, 20% large scale manufacturers. That's your platform. Now, as you grow bigger, the backward integration is technologically a bit challenging, so you need to learn your ropes, then go there. We are discussing these as the economy becomes a bit more mature. Okay, so then you have your basic manufacturing is produced. Now you need the raw material for that manufacturing. If you set up a big B2B unit, making an industrial raw material, and you don't have the enough market to consume that raw material locally, you probably would make a mistake. Unless you come up with something which is unique advantage, like we are discussing in Sudan today, that you can produce soda ash in Sudan, which is an industrial raw material, goes for detergent manufacturing. It will go for, let's say, a lot of textiles and paper, those kind of manufacturing. So unless I have those industries ready, I would not be able to produce it here. Even probably I would need some raw materials which is important.
So I actually disagree with George.
No, I didn't make a point. I just made a question.
No, absolutely.
For a lot of our mass market, it's essentially breaking bulk, where packaging is the problem, right? A very curious one is we import a lot of rice. It's bulky, and we set up factories.
1 kilo, 3 kilo, 5 kilo.
Exactly, and we set up factories to break the bulk. So it makes sense right now for multinational to break the bulk into it will be 2 kgs, and then but most of it will be 5 kgs and so on. And what you're saying is actually we could break that bulk even further. So I tend to agree with you as far as that's concerned. But I've got a bigger question. The bigger question is, how do you beat China? How do you beat India, where the transport cost is now next to nil? Right? So even if you set up your factory and it's low cost, but can you still beat? Are you still as competitive as India, as China?
Okay, good question.
Should you be trying to beat India and China?
That's another good
You
question.
have to beat them. See, the theory of competitive advantage says that you will find your space where you are competitive. China is not the most competitive player in the world for many sectors, but since they built up a scale, they have really become competitive. They have exported subsidies for many years. Okay, so they have become, let's say, the leader of the world in steel, on cement, or many products, toys. But it is not necessary that they are the most competitive supplier of that product. Okay, because I have built up a scale. But if I'm looking at, let's say, a product which I can manufacture at least using some part of my raw materials, okay, and then you build on to the capability. The question is,
it's only a matter of economies of scale. The larger you become, you gain that amount of advantage. The question really is, by manufacturing at a 10 times scale, can I become a very, very long-term competitive supplier and to beat it, forever?
But if they've got the scale, I want to come back to that. If they've already got the scale, how do I catch up? You see, so let's take, you mentioned steel. Half our country is red. You've driven around our country. It's red, and all that red soil you're seeing is ferrous. So we've got a lot of iron ore all over the place, and it's very cheap to extract. But I'm going to start with a small furnace. China's probably got furnaces the size of Harare.
Okay.
How do I beat that?
You can see, if you are talking about steel, you can beat them hands down any day.
How?
Okay, so let's say what a developing country needs. Okay, your steel requirement is
for construction,
in steel bars. That's the first biggest requirement.
Yes.
Steel bar manufacturing, let's say, requires you to have the iron ore, or whatever you have, using that iron ore, beneficiation of iron ore, and you really probably don't have money to send a $5 billion steel mill which produces from iron ore to, let's say, basic steel, and then produce the deformed bars in the market. Probably the market is not big enough, or there is not enough knowledge to, or enough capacity to invest that much amount of money. But there are plenty of technologies available which produces iron ore to a basic steel raw material at a very, very low cost. We know of technologies which can cost, let's say, less than $1 million to produce from the iron ore to a basic steel, which can be used to make a deform bar, again with an investment of not more than maybe $2, $3, $4 million, which is not big ticket for people getting into that industry. If you look at a steel importer who's importing 3,000-4,000 tons of rebars a month, you see his monthly import value is close to $4 million. And so if you look at his capital, let's say working capital for this business would be $20 million. He will need 3, 4, 5 months of working capital to sustain the business. So for him, is $4 million such a big money to set up this particular industry, which he's selling today?
It's not. Really. It makes sense.
Well, we're building a $1 billion
Steel.
Well, that's a government project. I don't know that makes sense. But I think
project. It's private Chinese investment.
So what you're also arguing is breaking bulk and also bespoke. So if it's still, so no matter what you do in China, it's never going to be bespoke. Whereas if you're closer to the market, you could manufacture something still that is bespoke.
If you have a basic advantage, which we call a raw material, suppose you have a primary raw material available in your jurisdiction, then there is nothing in the world which can stop you from manufacturing that product and sell it in your market, beating a larger manufacturer somewhere else. It is not really possible that you will be
electricity, cost of electricity. So if you look at cost of electricity in India, it's 5 cents a megawatt.
A kilowatt hour.
Kilowatt hour. In Zimbabwe, it's closer to 12 cents. And transport cost is 0. So if it's something that's heavy with electricity, then it's always cheaper to go to a country where there is economies. In South Korea now,
and if you import raw materials, landlocked country is always at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
See, that is why in the process of development, when you are starting off, of course you need some amount of government support. If they protect the domestic industry, everybody does it. India does it, China does it, any country does protect their domestic industry at a nascent level. Then the question is, as you go up in the capability level, how do you, you don't depend on it anymore, that yes, I have built up my skills so that I am able to sustain myself. I'm not really depending on government. You also want the government to be fair, that people are not able to import a product without paying the fair amount of duties. And those things, if it is controlled, that itself is enough. I mean, I have tremendous trust on small, medium manufacturers or entrepreneurs who want to do something. Okay, they find a way to solve it.
You know what I've actually taken away from everything you've said is the most important thing that the government can do is access to information. If information could be made available to people, I mean, like the steel mill you've just told us about, and apparently this afternoon you spoke about a $5,000 factory. Do you want to talk a little bit about a $5,000 factory?
No, I mean, of course, there are people who would come and say that, look, I'm in the food industry or I'm in the construction industry, and I want to make something. I don't want to depend on imports. So we would insist on a bit of familiarity, that you know the product, because you can't answer all of them. Okay, I don't know manufacturing, but I should know the product. I should know how to sell it, how to collect the money. So if I have a basic familiarity of the product, and then depending on the nature of the product that they're talking about, we can always say that, okay, if you are in construction, you can make hollow blocks or bricks. If you are in food, you can make a basic food item. That video that we were showing, that you can produce a chapati, or what we call a tortilla, using let's say corn flour, or even you can actually mix cassava flour in it and it will work exactly the same way. So how do you create these basic things that you want to? Why do you have to import a toffee? It's
dumb.
It's a simple product. You don't need any major technology to produce a toffee.
You need sugar and a stove.
You need water. So there are solutions available at every level. See, the one is information, another is mental blocks. The traders are the easiest people to convert, because they have the knowledge, they have the money. If they want to, whatever they are importing, if they want to make, okay, so some amount of government policy has to help them, that you can't keep depending on imports and expect for government to give you foreign currency to keep importing and keep supplying, whereas this product, at least if it is not technically complicated, you should be able to make it here. Okay, so these kind of places where policies have a role to play, that direction of the government, which way I want to grow. I don't want to depend on imports. I want to have a food sustainability is one major issue. That country, anything goes wrong, you don't want the country to go the Sri Lanka way, that suddenly the chaos breaks out and people don't have food to eat. Now those are the things the government policies help build, that okay, I create a structure, I create my rules that you are not allowed to import these items, or you will probably pay a duty of fairly high amount if you are trying to import these products. That will automatically drive entrepreneurs towards manufacturing. And of course, it has to be made simple. The point that I keep making is, how do I make it simple? You sit with a consultant or sit with somebody who tells you, okay, this is what you need to know about it in half an hour and in no technical terms. Simple.
And across Africa, because you've traveled across Africa and other developing countries, who's getting it right, in your opinion? Who's getting it right? Who has bought your gospel?
Or indeed anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world, yeah. Who's getting it right?
Okay, if you look at it, people who have gone up on the curve in last 20 years, good examples in Asia, like Bangladesh, Vietnam, they've got it very, very right, because they were 20 years ago, they were probably the same level of another African country.
They were behind us.
Maybe possible, because they were importing everything that they were importing. Today, they are probably in few segments, they are the best in the world for exports in 20 years. And we have seen it ourselves. We have sold the product in that country. Now we buy and we can export. So that's how things can be built up. So in Africa, a lot of people are getting it right. Nigeria is doing quite well. Ghana is with their one district, one factory kind of a policy, is distributing the manufacturing base to small scale people. Kenya have got it right some time ago. The Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania belt is technically, manufacturing capability wise, quite ahead of the curve already. Egypt is ahead of the curve in the same way. So Zimbabwe, I heard it fell from the curve.
Are you being rude to your host? No, I'm just pulling your leg.
Constructive criticism helps.
Yes, it does.
So, if you have realized that you have fallen off, let's say, a ladder, you might as well start climbing slowly. It's never too late, because you have young, enterprising population. That gives a lot of hope that we want to do something. They don't want to give up. You don't want to hear that, Europeans are the best producers in the world. You don't like it. So I said, well, what stops me from doing it? Some countries I hear, you look at my wine, I'm at the best wine. That Delta was saying that we make the best beer in the world. That confidence, yes. What is there in a beer? So, idea is
not much. Just water.
No, with a little bit of fairy dust.
Those are the highest profitable industries in the world, because the manufacturing cost of the finished product sale has the biggest.
It's huge.
Mr. Chaudhary, it's been lovely having you along. we need to say goodbye. But I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you in the next couple of days. Sure. And hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
At a funeral in the rural areas, there is a lot of work to be done. Fetching water, firewood, stones, bricks, and other things to save for Tonde. Tonde is sitting down where the elders are sitting. The young men are not happy with this because Tonde is the only one who knows everything that needs to be done as the mourners wait for the body of the deceased that is still to come to the rural home. The elders are keeping him close and constantly consulting him.
Listen to me. You see, among all these old men, nobody knows how your late brother's funeral policy works. Tonde here is a friend who works at Nyarazo. The friend is helping us with all the information, so we need Tonde close to us. You should be thanking Tonde because everything is circuitica nyore.
Neni Osekun, I just remembered that I have a friend at Nyarazo. Maybe I can help if Tonde can't find his phone.
Introducing Sawi, the chatbot from Nyarazo. Speak to Sawi for all your queries and inquiries. The benefits of having Sawi by your side are endless. When you need to know about our policy, Nyarazo products, payment platforms, claims, the Sawira International Plan, where to find the Nyarazo branches, Nyarazo contact details, how to apply, and any questions you may have. And she can help you find who you want to speak to. For your convenience, you can ask about anything, from our funeral services, counseling to your payments, and much more. Experience the benefit of having Sawi by your side. App Sawi today on WhatsApp number 0712 992 892. Nyarazo, Sawira mukuru, omgane omkulu.
Angi, apanya kana chikafu.
Hey, indlala, hey. Baza sifulala ngendlala wanhlaba.
Andiko akubikile iko.
Asabe.
Imukubike makabeji.
Ifuna usifulala ngendlala, eh?
Kwethe seguru. Bayeza bayenyarazo bayethatha imali. Bayabuya kathisi nje so.
Ngoyenda kunyarazo.
Wonke seguru.
The Sawira Connect card, connecting you to an easier and more convenient way to receive your funeral grocery allowance. Wipe away delays. Say goodbye to payment interruptions with just one simple swipe, 24/7. The Sawira Connect card made for your convenience. Anytime, anywhere. Access made easy. For more information, connect with us today.
Welcome back. We're still at CZI with good friends Tino, Tinashe, and George. And we now have an adult.
Why are you in charge?
The producer insisted on adult supervision. And
you're the best you could find.
Amit, so we're going to focus on,
Do you want me to tell the audience stories about you and Tino?
Guys,
no. Anyway, but so what do you think of this Mosi wine?
It's actually very good, eh? Very, very good. I like it. I actually hadn't read the bottle. I was going to say it tastes like Syrah. Yeah, I like it a lot. You'll no doubt tell me where to find some of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a fantastic backstory and it's a good wine. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers. You're here.
Tinashe got another.
We can't.
No.
Cheers. No.
You got another pink drink. But look, you've been an investment banker for a minute, and you've
18 years actually.
And you're still in that space.
Yep.
So perhaps for the benefit of our audience, you can unpack for us what the perception is from the outside looking in, you know, people who invest in markets like Zimbabwe. What is the perception of
Yeah, unfortunately, there's this negative connotation or negative risk premium that Zimbabwe gets. And I think a lot of it has got to do with how we treated investors a long time ago.
A long time ago? A long time ago?
Yeah.
6 months is a long time.
Have you ever heard of a thing called blocked funds?
That's a long time ago. I mean, we're in a new dispensation, you know, things have changed.
No, they became blocked after the new dispensation.
That's, anyway, so, perceived, but I think right now we're headed in the right direction going forward. So the perception is that, we need to manage issues to do with land tenure, the perception around land tenure. Exchange control, like you did mention, ring-fenced funds, still there's blocked funds that still need to be paid out.
You still have the government lingo on your tongue, eh?
No, I can't get it out. It's like, let me try wash it down.
No, on this show,
it was just 18 months.
On this show, we call things what they are.
Yeah. Look, there's blocked funds which have been ring fenced to circumvent them from blah blah blah. Okay, but on the real, those are the issues. Those are the problems. Those legacy issues, which is some things that we need to address as a country. So there's that perception, and then obviously, yes, the dreaded word, but it is true, guys. We are under sanctions. You know what I mean? If you are looking for a market for your product, you selling it in Botswana versus you selling in the US, price is different, currency is different, market is different, like in terms of numbers and the reach. So that does also affect some of our industries as well, and the spillover effect. But having said that, there's a lot of positive views. I mean, look at Invictus, an Australian listed company drilling for oil and gas in Zimbabwe. That's a success story, look at Prospect Resources, lithium. That's a success story. So we've got some of these.
The caveat there is still prospecting. Yeah. They're not drilling.
But that's aside from the point he's making. The point he's making is people in Australia
have put money into
Zimbabwe.
Okay. And even Zimplats, which has been here and has been here for a long time, is making significant investments to expand the operation here. So look, there is scope for foreign investors to make investments here that will achieve a reasonable return.
Yeah.
But it's not just perception that the risk here is quite high. Like, we do have legitimate issues in terms of the way we price the currency. Right now, the premium is not crazy, but it used to be, and it could be again.
Yeah. Those are things we need to fix, man.
Do you like Tinashe's idea of a currency board?
Oh, I was part of the guys who wrote that book. I don't know if you read it. Steve Hankey, John Leggett. Really,
you've been hanging out with imperialists.
Yeah, you participated in authoring a book
with imperialists.
Okay. I'll say that again slowly.
Sip wine. So it talked about that currency board, but the problem with that is that you also need to understand what you're dealing with, right? So if you do a currency board, you are taking away the central bank, basically, right? And that might not always be a favorable thing, if you understand what I'm saying, like next year type of situation. So, the currency board thing, okay.
No.
It works, but also we can't grow. Like how the states coming out of COVID, and they printed the hell and jump-started the economy. We wouldn't be able to do that, right?
Well, look where they are now.
Stronger than the euro.
A year ago, but the euro printed as well. A year ago, sitting where you're sitting, Jimmy Silos sat there, and we talked about the currency board with him.
Yeah.
And I think I raised the counter argument about elections and popularity, and his comeback was the government will be more popular if the currency is stable.
Prices are stable. That's exactly what you want.
I hear you, right? But the problem is that also look at the base, right? Who is the base? All you guys in your currency and what percentage are you really? I'm just saying, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, right? So you sophisticated guys, whatnot, because look at UMP, whatnot, Wagarima, blah blah blah.
No,
blah.
but no,
That's the base. That's the majority of people in Zimbabwe.
You know,
I've been brainwashed.
Yeah, because
I heard that for the first time. That's gonna. You're good.
Because come on, and you and I are from the same part of the country, and
yes,
and
the minority,
and we go there quite often. And what feedback do you get from your people in the village? Yes, about prices.
Guys, but isn't that a US dollar economy?
They've dollarized. They're fine. They're fine.
But but you think about it, access to dollars is actually a problem. And keeping the dollars, imagine keeping US dollar cash, under the pillow. That has a risk on its own.
No, people. Well, the feedback I'm getting, and it's purely anecdotal, but people would be happy to have their own currency if it was predictable.
Yeah,
I think the people that you're talking about have strong feelings about whether it is a US dollar or something else.
Okay.
But the majority of the country doesn't care because they don't have savings.
Yeah.
But what they want to know is if I've got money in my bank account today,
it'll be there tomorrow.
And it will buy the same stuff tomorrow. If I'm saving for my kids' school fees and I put aside a bit of money every month for 3 months, next term when I have to pay the bill, the money will be enough.
Yeah.
Not this that now I must go and do a chicken project, because if I don't do a chicken project and I just save some money, it won't be enough to pay my fees.
Unfortunately, where we are with the currency, with the people of Zimbabwe, I take it like a situation where you have between a spouse, right? You have a disagreement the first time, okay, it happens again the second time, or you keep getting beaten by whether your husband or your wife or whatever, right? And then you say, but I don't do that. At some point, people will be like, bruh, this is the 10th time, you know what I mean? So I think we have that situation between the people of Zimbabwe and their currency, where the trust has been broken. People have been told so many times, and then it's traumatic. And people they're traumatized, right? Yeah. So, which it was a noble idea to bring in the gold coins. I think people are just fed up, and also access to that kumusha. I don't know. I know there are new denominations that have just been released now.
Have they come out now?
Apparently, it's much smaller. So they're coming out soon. I think His Excellency mentioned it on TV yesterday in Rwanda or something. But it's
that statement has a lot in it that I just want to pull out. But anyway, carry on.
Yes, let him carry on. We're not pulling out those things.
Is this show PG? Do children watch the show? Because you guys are terrible.
Just had too much alcohol.
Oh, okay.
No, did you miss that?
No.
Did you want me to repeat what he said?
No. He's sips wine.
Anyway, carry on. No, he was making a point before I was interrupted.
Gold coins.
Let him finish.
Smaller denominations.
I understand. So even to the point where the government understands that, okay, this value preservation thing needs to shift another gear. Let's give them actual value, right? So which means everybody understands what the problem is. It's a trust issue, right, between the people and the central bank, right? And that's not going to be mended anytime soon. It's going to be a problem. But I think this gold coin thing, it's noble. I don't know, whether we've got the gold enough gold, because I mean, look at it, we've only sold like what, $8 million worth, was it $9 million worth so far? I mean, come on for a whole country, that's nothing.
Well, right? Because the RBZ does not produce gold, they have to buy it.
It's not a problem. As much as you think this is noble, but isn't this a fundamental problem to it being noble? Fundamental hurdle to it being noble.
Look, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's noble. The fact that
it's noble.
The fact that
the intention is right.
The fact that it's got some serious problems.
You know what they say? The road to hell.
It's paved with good intentions.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let's not.
Okay. So maybe they don't have the gold. Okay. Well, yes, you have a few concerns.
The main one was that maybe the amount of gold is not there. The ability to reach everyone in the country, is it there? Are we changing currency? Is that gold going to become the currency? Are we going back to bartering? Because now it's, so it's really, it's a little bit confusing. Can I borrow on gold coins?
You skipped a big one, another big one.
Which one?
How do we pay the miners?
I was actually mentioning that. That's another issue. Like, how do you pay
that's
the
the
miners?
core
That's
issue.
the core issue.
Right.
How do you pay the miners for the gold?
Obviously, it does not produce gold.
But it's still a noble idea.
So you have to encourage them not.
Look,
correct.
so
You
where,
went into government.
where,
for 18 months. This is the product.
no,
That's
but
what happens.
where I think it's noble.
Do
Do you know what? You know what? To be fair to the government, and where I will agree with about it being noble is that just for them to even conceive of gold coins, it's an acceptance of the fact that Zimbabweans don't trust the local currency. The local currency is a value trap. The moment you sit on it, it destroys value, and they get that.
And this is why they started.
So let me
This is
finish.
why they started with one where you need 1,000. How much do you need to buy one?
1,800.
1,800.
Yeah, no.
But they're bringing it down now. It's
No,
coming
but
down.
follow your logic. Follow your logic.
So
After all this, they decided let's start at 1,800.
So, okay, let me use an analogy to make my point. Right? They diagnosed the problem correctly. There is no faith and confidence in the local currency. Right? Was the prescription sensible, well thought out, reasonable? Absolutely not. I mean, gold coins is not.
So
So
tell
it's
me
like
something. If you were to change the investment landscape in Zimbabwe, what would you change? What would make Zimbabwe attractive?
That's a very good question.
That's-
One thing.
That's very interesting. I wouldn't change much. What I'll do, and when we were working my previous job, we came up with booklets and projects. The Dubai guys now flying in. I think what we need to do is to get our information right. So understand what you have, do feasibility studies, do your homework, have your projections, tell your story. So investors are coming in and they don't know what you have. They don't know, we don't have our ducks in a row as a country, right? So what we need to do, work from our DC levels, right? Rural district councils, private companies, we really need to get our ducks in a row and be investor ready. That's the one thing that I would really do, because I think we've got everything. We've got minerals, we've got skills, farming,
So let me
everything
get
is
you
there.
right. What you're actually saying is, over the last 20 years, what has happened is we haven't had that many investors coming into Zim, and it's been mostly local investment because FDI has not been that major in the last 20 years. And the rest of the world has moved on, where, if you're trying to invest in Dubai, for example, you can open an account or you can open a business within hours. And they will lay the red carpet for you. Whereas you come to Zim, it's just not there. It's disjointed.
No, I think what he's saying is more fundamental than that. If I hear you right, you're saying when you walk into a Zimbabwean parastatal, a Zimbabwean business, a Zimbabwean local authority with your suitcase of money, and you say, what can we do? The guys are scrounging and they're looking at each other. They don't know. They can't answer your question.
They don't know. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we haven't been interfacing with investors for a very long time.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's what interfacing with investors. I think that's a
But then we would know, right? Okay, so it would happen the first time.
No, Tinashe. You go to one of your poor relatives' houses. You get there and your cousin is out drinking and you sit with your Mainini. Mainini, what can I do to help your family? She will very clearly and articulately tell you, Bamkuru, if you can do these 3 things for me, our life here will improve. So to me, it's a competence issue. The people, I don't know whether it's a competence or a commitment issue. Nobody's thinking about these things. Because how are they even thinking about solutions if they don't know their problem?
Yeah.
The way I'm reading it is, have you tried to invest in a small business? Do you know how some businesses are just not investable?
Yes.
It's very attractive. It's being run by a guy who has no audited accounts, no systems whatsoever, but you know that this guy is making money, right? But it's just not investable.
So it's a competence issue.
First of all, I just wanted to capture. Am I capturing it correctly?
You're both right, to be honest. So firstly, it's an issue of they don't know that they don't know. There's something that my former boss, Doug, used to say. He used to say all the time, they are known knowns, right? They are known unknowns. And they are unknown unknowns. We always used to talk about not the fact that you don't know what you don't know, right? And you need to accept, the moment you accept that there are things that I don't know, right, that are there, you further yourself, right? So unfortunately, with dealing with investors, there's a lot of unknown unknowns. So people think, no investor, stock value gold. No, dude. Like you say, no audited accounts, you're not keeping the books, you're not doing anything, and you think an investor's gonna walk in the next day just because, here's $1 million, I've been making a million anyway. No, okay, but where are your systems, where are your checks and balances, whatever? And a lot of people out there don't know that, which is why even we had started that drive from our RIDCs to go train them, give them, my workshops, and I think they've restarted it recently. But that was something that I was very passionate. I'm still very passionate about. Is going out there and actually educating the people.
So
on
that's
how,
the work you're now doing.
Yeah, okay. That's the space we're in as well. Like, not only just getting them project ready, but actually then linking them up with the investors after that. So it's an exciting thing. We were out in Rusape the other day and Mazoe last week. I mean, it's and they're so welcoming. The guys are actually, they want to know.
So let me give you a very good example.
You're going to give him an example of what he's saying.
It's typical of Tinashe.
No, I'm agreeing with what he's saying. That I had an interesting story once with one friend of mine, and he was trying to invest in a gold mine, right? And he sort of said to the guy, this guy advertised that actually I've got 1 hectare, a block, and this is what we're producing, blah, 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 blah. And the guy just sent a message and said, okay, can I see your papers? And the guy replied, what papers?
No.
Whereas, if you were to go to Malawi of all places, and you would have a similar sort of conversation, in fact, you wouldn't even get to that. You wouldn't even ask. The guy would provide the information. It might not be audited, but he's got
a starting point.
Yeah, but I'm going to push back on this narrative. I don't agree that that's a fundamental problem, because I think that if at a macro level, people understand that there's a lot of opportunity. If I wire $1 million US into Zimbabwe and make investments in local currency, I'm getting a fair rate. Yes, initially these problems will be stumbling blocks, right? But if at a macro level, people understand that there's opportunity, but yes, okay, fine, it's messy, people don't have accounts or systems or whatever, they will come through with expertise on systems, on...
That's not how the world works.
You're right, but not in his world. Remember we asked him in his world, and he's in the investment world.
No, but not just in his world, Rufaro. What happens in the real world is the good money, the patient money, the supportive money is run by institutions. The money you're going to, and institutions require process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The money you're going to get is cavalier money.
Buccaneer.
Buccaneer money. It's money you don't want. And it's the money that we've got floating around right now.
I beg to differ. I think, okay, so
Mtuli's deal,
I think
the platinum deal that Mtuli raised, that the Chinese, we borrowed some money from the Chinese on the back of a huge platinum.
Yeah, I think I read something about it, yeah?
And it's because it's
he's
Buccaneer
got
money.
an oth of secrecy, he can't.
No.
He can't tell us the details.
How's about?
I'm
don't know anything.
I'm gonna push back.
Employee 002.
I'm gonna push back using a mining analogy. So before a big mining house on the global stage like Rio Tinto makes a multi-billion-dollar investment, right? There's much earlier in the cycle, there's a smaller mining operation that does exploration. They take high risk because nobody's sure whether there's a resource there and whether it makes any sense to build a mine around it. And exploration is very high risk, and a lot of it doesn't lead to anything, right? But it's the explorer who then proves that there's a resource. And once he's demonstrated that there's a resource, they then put the paperwork in place and they flog it to a BHP, to a Rio. And what I'm saying is, so at the beginning. Right now, it's a mess. People don't have systems. They don't have audited accounts. They have all these issues, right? But if the macroeconomic framework is such that real money can come in, and the only problem is what you're speaking to, which is, you know, the paperwork, the systems aren't there. What will happen is there will be some of those buccaneers will come in solely to sort out those systems and fix the mess so that they can sell it to the guy, to that good patient long money.
But what our solution was. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
What you're saying is, because you're assuming that we're saying the problem is one mine owner. But the problem is not one mine owner. What he's saying is Ministry of Mines, local, what's he called? District Mining Commissioner. The RDC guy responsible for that area.
Well,
the
all my
Zimmer
friends,
guy.
and I love them so much.
All of them.
He will shortly be disavowing all of us.
So yes, but because even that junior miner or that exploration company is listed. It's got processes. So when you're asking a guy, can I have your papers for your piece of land? And his answer is, what papers? How does this get through a board?
It doesn't.
How does it get through an investment committee?
Yeah.
So we've got to just get ourselves together. But it's also more worrying about how are you managing this thing,
But
right?
who's training them? Who's telling them what to do? This is it. Right? We need to actually go out and have a budget for it as a country. Guys, let's get our businesses and our portfolios and everything and our minerals, let's get them investor ready, even from a local to local point of view. I mean, look, the biggest transaction last year or the year before was that Delagio, right? That was a local company buying a local mine, right? Padenga buying a local mine. That's local to local, right? So even from a local to local point of view, let's get our ducks in a row. Guys, this is how your stuff must be. Let's put our ducks in a row, and go out there and educate people. I think that's the biggest.
We spoke earlier on at the same conference to a gentleman from Singapore who's helping people with industrial solutions and so on. And what I took away from the discussion with him was pretty much what you were saying, that the most valuable piece in the whole equation of industrializing the country is information. People just don't know.
That's it.
They don't know that it can be done. They don't know how it can be done.
So is it a fallacy, therefore, that Zimbabweans are some of the most educated people on the planet?
Literate.
No, I think.
Literate.
I think we
they can
are.
read and write.
We are
Grade
smart.
three. You know, literacy is grade 3.
I think we are smart. We
You used to say grade 5 though.
We're just not
No,
focused.
always grade 3. There's always been grade 3.
Sorry, Tino.
Sorry.
You're trying to keep up with us.
I think we are sharp. We just need
Grade 3 sharp.
no. I think
He's
we're
being
sharp.
obnoxious.
I think we're sharp. But
We're sharp.
what we lack is discipline as a nation. I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. Simple things. I like to look at behavioral, whether it's in a person or in a society. Have you noticed that when the traffic light turns red, how many cars go through that light? 3 on average. After a red light, 3. That's just a social indiscipline. And everybody knows that now.
And you think we're sharp?
And everybody knows that. No, all I'm saying is that we are sharp, but we're just. But that was
No,
never Zim. Remember, Takambo is my yellow lines. They would pin the yellow lines.
So very smart, intelligent people go through red lights.
Yes, you have to. So I'll give an example. Right?
Of a smart, intelligent person
I'll give you an
going
example.
through a red light.
Let me tell you. First things first. When you are in a jungle, you better become a gorilla. Unfortunately, everyone else is behaving like a animal, right?
So you,
especially in traffic. No. Listen,
So you must
let me
also
stick to my
become
traffic story. Traffic, you know, it's a very tricky thing because you're all going in the same direction, or someone coming onto you. It's ridiculous, and someone's overtaking from the left, kind of half wheels on the road, half on the dust road, right? But you know, it's such a chaotic environment that we're in.
Okay, no, okay.
But I was saying it's indiscipline.
Before you get into more trouble, since people are quoting
Can you edit
examples,
that part out?
while you're quoting examples, Tino, I've got one that I'd like you to refute with your hypothesis about us being really smart, intelligent people.
Yeah.
All four of us here know people that are managers in Harare, work in big companies, make important big decisions, that have gone to their rural home and built a house.
Yeah.
With a toilet outside.
I don't know about your relatives, but I don't know which people you know. There's a thing called Soakaway. I have a toilet outside.
But that's the point.
No,
That's the point.
It's got a toilet inside. It's Soakaway. You know, Flash.
But while you're describing us all as a very intelligent, progressive lot, I'd like you to think about
No, but your intelligence. No. See, guys, also, Chimomira, no, 2 seconds. We need to remove this snobbish side of things. And it's just we grew up in a certain way, we've been privileged a lot and all that. And a lot of people then make money later on in life, right? But they've been set in a certain way, right? If the toilet is supposed to be outside, guess what? It's his money.
But if they
it's
were
his
smart,
toilet.
he's
What's your
pointed.
problem?
They live in Harare. They live in Harare. They live in Harare.
They don't need it. They don't need
No. Why are you? Who gave
you
you the authority to judge?
living in a house.
These people are not architects, right? So the architect probably put together a plan where the toilet was in the house, and then the customer pushes back and says no, outside.
But you know what my argument is with that? My argument is because of the certain way that yes, I've grown up a privileged life. You know what I mean? There's certain things that I see in a certain way. Okay,
the example I've given you are people that have a house in Harare.
They're already like a toilet inside.
I can't argue it. That's one person. Okay, can I ask you something? Right? Do you have at your house? Do you have like a butterfly on the wall? You know, like a butterfly, like a metal genie. Hanging,
no.
Right? Because you can't see it. You're not artistic like that, right? If you go to other people or other nationality people,
so you're saying it's actually artistic?
It's artistic. You can't
To have
see
a toilet
it.
indoors.
So this guy can't see it.
Okay, let's move on.
But you can't see it. All you know is what you know.
Okay,
this is
alright.
the time when we need to move on.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on.
Maybe this is the time to say goodnight.
Yeah, I think so. Too much wine.
As always, it's been a pleasure having you along. Have a great weekend. Be good. And if you can't be good at it.